Welcome to the New to Wrestling podcast, where I, your host, Xavier Cruz, a lifelong wrestling fan, will take a lifelong friend through the action, the joys, and the drama of the world of professional wrestling. My co-host, Kelsey Silva, has been bitten by the wrestling bug, and I want to invite you to join us as I take her through the moments that made me a fan. So if you're new to wrestling and would like to get brought up to speed, or a fan who would like to relive some classic matches, promos, and segments through fresh eyes, join us as we embark on a journey through the Attitude Era and beyond. Welcome to the New to Wrestling podcast. Hello, and welcome back to a very exciting edition of the New to Wrestling podcast. Today, we watched our first pay-per-view event, which was the WWF In Your House International Incident out of British Columbia. The match card consisted of 5 matches. We had the Smoking Guns versus the Body Donnas. We had Mankind and Henry Godwin. We had Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Mark Miro. We had Goldust versus The Undertaker. And then we had the main event, which was a 6-man tag with Ahmed Johnson, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, and Psycho Sid versus Camp Cornette, consisting of the British Bulldog, Owen Hart, and Vader. We're just going to get right into it because there was a ton. There was a ton. All right, so the first match, we had the Smoking Guns versus the Body Donnas, which I believe this is the first time. Have you seen the Body Donnas previously? No. I don't think so, right?
No.
And they're they're a tag team that just comes and goes. I'm pretty fairly certain. I don't know how long they stick around for, but I can assure you that they don't, when I started watching wrestling, they weren't a thing. So I don't know where they go or what happens to them, but they are just not really a thing. It was a pretty back and forth kind of match. The Body Donnas tend to be they're more they're quicker, high flying, and the Smoking Guns are kind of just more like your big jockey, kind of dudes. We got, more typical Sunny running around, screaming, although she really brought it up a level during this match when she fake fainted outside.
Yep.
I was like, okay, drama. Fully
she
just
is the drama.
100%. She is a prisoner of her own making. I swear to God. She just falls into ailments that are just of her own creation.
Yep.
So it was fine. We had Smoking Gun miscommunications, and then the Body Donnas kind of sneaked out a win at the end. It was a very quick kind of finish. They're gonna compete again. This isn't the last time you're gonna see these two teams go off. The things that kind of stood out for this match for me were JR, who this was also the first introduction of Jim Ross to the announce team, or at least in an actual on the commentator side of things. Typically we see him do kind of backstage interviews and stuff like that, but I think now we're gonna start seeing him come into the fold a little bit more. But it was the first iteration that I can remember of him calling Sunny a Jezebel, which was just hilarious because
and it wasn't even he was that Jezebel. He was very impassioned about it.
Oh, it was meaningful. He said it with his whole chest.
Whole chest.
So yeah, that was just kind of a pretty solid opener. And then our next match we get into, which is Mankind versus Henry Godwin. And you have every time you see Mankind, you have a visceral reaction to him. You do not like this character.
No, it's so funny. I literally just wrote in my notes, Mankind is so scary.
Oh, yeah.
And then I put, music is so eerie.
Oh, so he has 2 different themes. He has an intro theme and then an outro theme that is that are 2 different songs. So that was by design. Apparently when they were I recently just rewatched a Mick Foley documentary, but apparently they when they were designing the character, it was one of his ideas to have different theme music, which is something that doesn't really happen or had I don't believe anybody else really has a different entrance exit theme. They do go into, they mention his missing ear.
Yes,
So
which
so he lost
what?
that during a match. I believe it was in Japan, but he does this like maneuver where he like gets caught up in the like the front or the top and middle ropes, like from like the neck, and like in this particular like instance he couldn't like get untangled, so the ref had to like help him, but when he did, like he got untangled, his ear like came, like
Oh,
got basically just got like ripped off in the process. So like he has just kind of like a little like kind of nub situation happening.
that
Which just
is
kind of adds
horrible.
even more to like just the absolute like just like atypicalness of his like his body type. Like he's just not a normal wrestler,
No.
which is fantastic. But in this match we see a lot of stuff that he's kind of known for. He's generally known for having a very like hardcore style. You'll see in like different characters that he comes up, he's known for taking a lot of punishment, and like taking kind of like spots and shots that like nobody else is willing to put their body through. And you see that when
Mm,
he something he like is kind of like known for is like ripping that the padding outside and doing like those moves on the
yes.
concrete. That is something he does often, and it's terrifying because like
It's so
he
scary.
more often than not like is the one on the receiving end of that, and you have to like think about like how over the course of a career how like detrimental landing on concrete will be for your like just general well-being.
Yeah.
We get to see the gruesomeness of the mandible claw again, because that's how we finish this match.
I
And that's
can't.
another one that like absolutely like you hate
I okay,
it.
because it's just like so twisted, like who how you even thought of that. Like I will say this, like the branding, the whole character is so like everything is on point. Like the costume, the Hannibal Lecter helmet, the missing chunks of hair because he just pulls it out willy-nilly during
Right.
his match.
The
But the
squealing.
mandible claw is like the most demented like move I've ever seen where it's
Right.
just like so I don't know, I just said I was like I would if someone put their fingers in my mouth like that like and like pin I would like projectile vomit. Like that would be so terrifying. Like I don't know if it would be pain or fear, but it would there would be vomit. Like I would freak out.
And
And he does
he
it so quick. He just
oh,
gets
it
in
comes out of
there.
nowhere. Oh, and like
Yes.
and it looks just painful. And like
Horrible.
it just, yeah, it's just is so unpleasant. And it just fits the character so well though, because like only
Yeah.
like a deranged person would like be like, oh, I'm gonna just like absolutely like shove my fingers down like your throat, like you know what I mean, like
Everyone needs a tetanus shot. That is disgusting.
100%, like no one is safe, like
No one's safe.
get your vaccines, children, because this
Every
man
make sure
is
your
coming
paperwork
for
is
your
up.
throat. Like
Literally, literally coming for your throat with his
mm,
dirty, dirty fingers that were just pulling out chunks of his hair. Insane.
it's like a warm hug. So okay, so the next match that we have is Stone Cold Steve Austin and Mark Miro, which is a rematch from the King of the Ring, which was like the previous pay-per-view. We really get into really think the premise of this match was just to kind of show how like brutal Stone Cold is and how like unrelentingly like just mean he is.
So mean.
So, and you really like you see, one, he was very much like in control of most of the match. He was just kind of like not letting Miro get away with anything. This match, Mark Miro was accompanied by Sable, which we did get to see a little bit more of the like Marlena Sable whatever is happening, because Marlena came down to ringside and like presented a golden envelope to the commentators, which they like don't open, which I find
Or read.
weird.
And then they're like,
Yeah,
why is she here? And we're like, girl, read
Fully.
the letter.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, she's probably giving you clues as to what is happening, and we're just getting none of it.
Nin.
So we're seeing her pop up more and more. So that's definitely going to be kind of where that, because Mark Merrow lost this match.
Mm-hmm.
So after this, I imagine Goldust is going to be the main kind of feud he goes into.
Mm.
And we see kind of the like establishment of like the just kind of the Stone Cold Stunner as like a brutal like finisher, which he will ride out to the very end of his career.
Word.
So like that is like the move, and will be like emulated by many, but he's like the one to
The
perfect it.
one.
I did have a favorite Jerry the King Lawler quote from this match.
Yep, I
Um,
wrote it
and
down too, I think.
and it was have you ever had to suck soup through a straw? In reference to like Stone Cold having all these like stitches in his mouth. And it just like took me like off guard. Like it was just like
So off guard.
because it's just not a sentence you expect to hear in a wrestling match. You're like,
Like, have you? But
like,
have you though?
I was like, I can't say that I have, but like, okay.
But any, I mean, you've made me question things. Thank you for the commentary.
Exactly. Oh, and then I had another one from this match also, which was Mark Marrow like ended up like falling from like the top rope like to the outside of the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And like previous to that, he had like done some like scream into the like the crowd or whatever. And JR calls it like the call of the wild. And then as
Oh,
soon as he
yep.
hits the deck, Jerry the King Lawler, being true to form, is just like that's the fall of the wild. And he was so proud of himself. And you could tell by that cackle that followed. I was just like, sir, kudos. That was
That
just
was a
like
good one.
that was a good like turn of phrase, you know?
Lovely.
All right, so the next match I'm kind of excited to like go into. That was Goldust versus The Undertaker. So we see like Goldust like really playing up the like the fearfulness of the Undertaker by like just like refusing to enter the match for like a solid couple minutes. Uh
Swear.
and like the Undertaker is just like so in character. He just like is staring the entire time and doesn't move. Like it literally just looks like he's not blinking. He's like
Ooh, just got a chill.
uninterested in anything that this man is doing. He's like, I'm gonna get him eventually. So that really like kind of plays up, and I think it goes back into like where we talked about the promo from like last week, just kind of building back up the Undertaker from having like some pretty like significant losses in the last like couple months.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it goes to show. And also another thing that I don't know if you've ever like noticed, but is going to be like a reoccurring thing in Undertaker matches. But there will be points where like the referee goes to like admonish the Undertaker for something, and he just like turns and looks at the referee, and the referee looks like he's gonna shit himself. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's something that happens a lot, and it's just like this little like detail that like just goes into like the whole aura of like everyone fears this man. So that was awesome. We get the DQ at the end of this match is wild. So we have we're like we're going through the matches. It seems like the Undertaker has it well in hand. He's about to tombstone Goldust when Mankind pops up from just underneath the ring and just drags the Undertaker like underneath and just like
Insane.
and then all of a sudden like that calls for like the DQ, so the match is over. Goldust slips into whatever crevice he crawled out of, and then like we just start like the Undertaker music starts playing, and the fog comes out of the hole in the ring, and then all of a sudden the Undertaker shows up on the opposite side of the ring, like pops back up
Bust through.
like just like the pop-up book from hell, like just like a Jack in the Box that was made by a demon, and like
Swear.
like just comes up and just like absolutely gets his, because he chases Mankind back into the back. And you don't know this, but the McMahon like mentions like, oh, like they're in like a boiler room. So like there is going to be in the next pay-per-view a Boiler Room Brawl, which is going to
No.
be, yeah, you know how like you said you like it when it goes like Jerry Springer, like
Very
it's going,
Maury. Yeah.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, very Maury.
Jerry
It
Springer too.
listen, it's whatever, some shaky like
Shaky,
drama
the
cam.
cameraman got his sprints in.
100%. He's putting in work.
Hmm.
But the next pay-per-view leading up to is going to be a Boiler Room Brawl. It's at the SummerSlam of that year. And it is one of those matches that just gets it is so well done that it is talked about forever. It's just one of those like matches
No.
that just like stands the test of time. Because it was like one, it was like kind of the first of it, like its kind. It's like it's really the only one that they ever do in that kind of like specifically like a boiler room brawl. They might do like another one down the line, but it's nowhere near as memorable. And that and even like them leading up to like doing that like segment, like the camera cuts out, you hear all this like screaming, and it just like sounds like an actual horror film.
Massacre.
So it's just like I could watch those two fight forever. Like they are so phenomenal. But yeah, so that's something to kind of look forward to, because the next how wrestling works is like we get 4 or 5 episodes of like the weekly television show, and then we get a pay-per-view. So it's going to be building up to that, so you're going to see kind of more, there's going to be more interactions between the two, because clearly they're not done beating the holy hell out of each other.
Thank God. And there's nothing I love more when they just like commit to the bit. They're like, okay, like Boiler Room Brawl, let's just do it. Like, I
No,
just
fully.
absolutely freaking love that.
All right, and then we had the main event. So we had the 6-man tag: Ahmed Johnson, HBK, Heartbreak Kid, Psycho Sid, and then the British Bulldog, Vader, and Owen Hart. It was a phenomenal match.
Amazing.
And it's one of those matches that like you really see Shawn Michaels like storytelling like ability, because he's just so believable. Everything that he does, you like fully believe that like when he's like down, you believe he's like down and out. When he's
Hmm.
like kicking ass, you fully believe that he is going to just like destroy. He's just so good. And we really see like this match they make a focus of like isolating Shawn, so like not allowing him to like tag his partners.
Hmm.
And you really see kind of like that's when his like storytelling comes like to play, when like he takes such a beating, but him being just like the underdog that everyone loves to root for, like you
Mm.
believe that he's gonna like turn it around like somehow. And granted, Camp Cornette had like cheating out the wazoo in this match, which we
Hmm.
expected nothing less.
Yep.
So it was great. We had a few kind of like weird moments in this match. Or not weird. There was a fan that like jumped the barricade, which is
Yep.
something that just wouldn't happen today because of like all of the security that we now have. It just wouldn't be a thing. And we saw like the barricade as Shawn Michaels was like coming in, like the fans like were like rushing the front so badly that the barricade just like fell
Fell.
over, which was another just like would not happen, mostly because they're like no longer just like a random steel like grate, like it's like
Like
a whole, it's like
yeah.
it's an actual like wall.
Yeah.
Oh, when we see Ahmed Johnson slam Vader, is insane, just
Insane.
because like Ahmed Johnson is big, and like but like when you see him pick up like a 500-pound man, you're just like insanity,
It
absolute
was
insanity.
literally ridiculous because I was like, there's no way this is happening. There's no way this is happening right now. And then it happened, and I was like, oh my God. This is
And the
crazy.
and then you get kind of this like really like technical kind of like portion of the match between Owen Hart and Shawn Michaels, and you really
Yes.
get to see like kind of like how technically sound they both are, just like the back and forth, which is something like it's kind of like a little like treat for like your kind of like old school wrestling fans who are very much like about the kind of the technicality of it all, and less like
Mm.
the showmanship. And then we get to like the end of the match, which is Shawn Michaels is about to perform like Sweet Chin Music, and Jim Cornette, being Jim Cornette, like grabs the foot. He gets
Mm.
Vader bombed,
Gator
which
bombed.
is insanity. You haven't seen Vader do a moonsault, which is
Oh, what?
Oh, moonsault. So basically, there are times when Vader gets up onto the top rope
No,
and does a backflip
no,
onto an opponent.
no.
Like it is one of the more terrifying things you like ever see
Oh my
because it's
God.
just like that man has you just think like that man has no business doing that at all. So like but I really enjoyed this match. Yeah, and like, I think it like goes to show like typically like you have like the world championship like on the line, but because this wasn't that kind of like pay-per-view like main event, I think they really did a good job of kind of um replacing that. Normally those matches are like really high caliber, they're very back and forth, you get lots of like near falls and that sort
Mm,
of stuff. I think they did a really good job. Like if you weren't going to get that kind of match, like this was a like a good alternative.
yeah.
You did have a question about like masks or like you wanted to.
Yeah. I because I was gonna say like watching Vader because and even Mankind, like I was saying that I think it's such a crazy commitment to commit to wrestling in a mask because it's just on all the time. And then I was like, oh, that's so interesting because I just realized we haven't seen any Mexican wrestlers in the WWF at this point, which I know that that is like a huge thing, like wrestling with the mask is like a huge
Yeah,
part
it's
of it.
that's like a huge like just component of their culture, and it's very much like you I might be off, but like you go through like training as like a to become like a luchador, and then you kind of like graduate like from your like training like program, and that's when you get to like inherit like a mask.
Oh,
And
you
it's you
inherit a mask?
Yeah, so it's a lot of times it's from like who your like trainer is.
Oh, wow.
And that's sort of like that's how they like carry on like those legacies. Or you
Oh
could,
my God, that's
choose not to
amazing.
wrestle in a mask. It really like depends. But I think like certain masks like are probably a little bit easier. Probably like well, Vader's is just like looks like it's like just like very tight. And
Like
like
his nose looks flat. Like it
right.
looks like he
And
his can't breathe.
you'll notice like in it comes off a lot. Like his mask gets knocked off a lot.
Word.
But I feel like Mankind's and like Vader's is at least like open enough to be able to like breathe. But you'll see like I always am like amazed when you see like the Mexican wrestlers, a lot of which are working in WCW right now, because they did a really good job of incorporating them as part of their like cruiserweight division, which
Mm,
is something the WWE kind of hasn't caught up to speed on yet. They will
heard.
eventually have more of that. But right now it's very, we're still in the land of the giants, and um
Got it.
we're still like navigating like that. But there are wrestlers with masks who like have their whole like mouth and like nose covered except for like like tiny holes or like a mesh covering, and I'm always like really impressed by that because like you'll see these wrestlers go like 30 minutes 40 minutes like in a match, and you're just like your face must just like when you get out of that thing like you have to just be just like absolutely drenched,
Yeah, just like
you know. No, exactly. And so like that's always like mighty impressive to me. We won't see a lot of like big name like Mexican wrestlers for like a minute in the WWE. Like
mm,
which is a downer cuz I love that kind of like style of wrestling.
me too.
But it's very we're transitioning on a lot of levels. So before we see kind of more of that, we have to see kind of more people like Shawn Michaels' size because
Right.
he's like a student of that like style of wrestling.
Mm,
His popularity is kind of something that's going to allow for more of that to kind of show up in WWE, if that
heard.
makes sense.
Yeah,
um
totally.
all right, so hit me, what was your least favorite match, what was your favorite match, and then I don't know if you had any other like Jerry the King Lawler one liners, but
I did.
okay, so whichever one you want to hit me with first. Go ahead.
Okay, wait. So my least favorite match was again probably the first, just because it was good. Like all the matches were so good and all of it was happening. There was so much happened, but it was so good. But I think that that was my least favorite. I think my favorite match was, though it's like such a close call between the last one and then the Undertaker and Goldust, but honestly, I think it was Undertaker and Goldust only because like the theatrics were also just ludicrous in like the best way. Like
Right.
I even wrote down like Marlena is a down bitch because when Undertaker went to throw the steel stairs at him and she just laid her body on
Oh
top
my
of him
God,
so that he would,
yes.
I was like, that is a real one right there. Like, okay, girl, go off.
100%.
But
We
like,
were like, stand by your man.
stand by your man, because meanwhile he like is running around. I literally was like, will you get in there and fight? Like, what are you
Oh
doing?
my God, I know. I was like, get that wedgie out of your ass and
No,
like get
swear.
in the ring.
I
Like, get
Costume
it together.
department, I need a resize on Goldust because that thing
And that
is
thing was thanging.
it was it was up there, girl. Like floss. It was bad.
Yeah.
But it was just so good. And then like I did not expect Mankind to come out of the like that was insane. Where he just like boop popped out, sucked him back. And I didn't expect because the Undertaker's humongous. I didn't expect him to actually get dragged under the ring. Like I didn't
Right.
think that was gonna happen. And then he literally and he went like face first and
Yeah.
went down. Insane. But during that match, to my Jerry the King Lawler quote, during that match, they were asking, he was like, whose ashes do we think are in the urn? And like, he just won't let Jake the Snake live. And I feel like every week we're like,
Oh.
we just talk about it, like, because he always has something to say about him. And because I think last week he said Jake the Snake's liver has already given a concession speech.
Oh my God. I can't.
Horrible. And then today he said, if they burned Jake the Snake, he would burn for 4 days.
Oh, yes. He won't let him live. Like,
No.
and they were supposed to have a match, I believe, like on this pay-per-view, but Jake the Snake was like injured, so like they like couldn't do it. And like just Jerry the King Lawler being Jerry the King Lawler could not let this man just have any peace.
Nope.
Just like always coming for his neck.
Like, and it's always so like sometimes they take me like a second to register because he
Right.
goes, yeah, if they burn Jake the Snake, he would burn for 4 days. And I was like,
Wait a
oh
minute.
my God.
Right.
Like,
You're just like, could you be
oh my
anything
God.
less? And the answer is no. No, he cannot.
No, and honestly, I love it. If I freaking eat it up, it's so good. But yeah, honestly, that was definitely my favorite.
So I'm pretty sure next week, so like the next episode of Raw, we're gonna get Shawn Michaels and Ahmed Johnson facing the Smoking Guns for the tag team championship.
Oh, sick.
So that should be pretty interesting. But that's like the only thing that was announced as far as like this pay-per-view goes. So I think like going like in the future, we will be we're still gonna continue to do our weekly Monday Night Raw podcast. We're gonna cover it. But I for the next pay-per-view, you guys will be able to catch us on Stream Lounge. And I think as we get closer, we'll make sure to give you guys like the details. But you can live stream the episode with us while we watch the pay-per-view, because I think live streaming the Boiler Room Brawl will be a phenomenal time.
I'm so
Because
psyched.
there is something like about like watching, because this is all like new for the first time, like your reactions are so genuine and like new, that I think it'll just be fun for like everybody, because like there's nothing like seeing wrestling like through like fresh eyes. It's the best. Like even the stuff like I forget about, I like feel myself like having a genuine reaction, because like again, we were 2 years old when this was airing. So
Right.
all right, thank you for sticking it out. It's a late one today, but we're doing
Yeah.
but we're getting it done. This has been another episode of the New to Wrestling podcast. Join us next week. We're gonna
Woo.
watch another episode of Monday Night Raw. Thank you guys, and catch you next time.
We'll see you soon.